Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Lisa Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Florida, and today I've got a special guest. This is also my last podcast recording of 2021, and I'm releasing this as a New Year's special. My special guest is an abundance and prosperity coach, well versed in using law of attraction along with quantum mechanics, to help others manifest their dreams and desires. Manifesting lottery winnings using consciousness and law of attraction, reconditioning of the ego mind, manifest wealth, how to win, and self-improvement. So everyone, please help me welcome Mark Haughton to the 8 Billion Podcast. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, Liza. 8 billion. That's great. Wow. I remember a few years ago when we started to contact and you were going through so much shifts and now you're just blowing up, which is amazing. You're doing your thing.
That's exactly why I had to have you on,
Yeah.
because I just wanted to show and share with the audience. 3 years ago, I connected with Mark. I took him on as a coach, as a mindset coach, but I was going through one of the toughest times in my life. I was at a job that I didn't like. My mother was dying of cancer. Everything was just absolutely not in that place. And Mark absolutely was amazing and helping me guide me through that time. But one of the reasons why I think it's so important, why I wanted to have you on, Mark, was just because sometimes people are looking for some quick results, and sometimes they think it's immediate, and it can be. It can be depending on where you are on your journey. But I just want to let the audience know that sometimes it was after my coaching with Mark and following through with a lot of those things, everything just started to click and it just took off. And here I am 3 years later with a podcast that has had a global ranking and all this kind of stuff. I'm beyond blessed. I have no clue. I mean, a lot of people ask me how I did it. I didn't have strategy. All I just knew was I followed, I connected with aligned with my higher self, and I just kept following what they said. So
yeah, you aligned with source.
Yes. So, Mark, could you let the audience know? I mean, I know that I gave you your bio, but if you want to sum up what you've been actually doing, Mark does so many things on different platforms. But if you want to share with the audience what you're doing currently.
Oh, currently, as you said, I'm just doing a lot of podcasts, social media, coaching, teaching, just spreading awareness, teaching everyone how the universe and their mind actually works. Basically, I'm teaching people to unlearn all they've learned since they were growing up. Every single person has a faulty map of reality. Some people don't even know what I mean by a map of reality. You have maps of reality that sees your world. You have two maps. You have one in your thinking head, that's your conscious, and you have a map of reality in your subconscious. And so I'm basically spreading truth to show people how things work, because I did this myself. My story. So 2016, I wanted this beautiful car. It was like a Dakar yellow. We only built one of 10 M3s, yellow, beautiful sports car. I wanted it so bad. And I was beginning my spiritual journey, my spiritual awakening. And I started to just study the mind, quantum physics. I've always been very aware of how the universe. I'm a curious person by nature. I'm very open-minded. But I always had these gifts that I'm really, really good at analyzing, picking things up, getting what I call downloads. I'll talk a little about that later on, what the download is. And connecting with your higher self. Talk about that too. Make a long story short, yeah, I did exactly that. So I said, hey, I want this car. So I said, I'm going to win the lottery. And I went ahead and I visualized, did some meditate, whatever, did my little routine, and it came to pass. I won the lottery, bought the car. And then I would do it over again. And whenever I wanted something, I'd go back again and I'd meditate, visualize, I'd win the lottery again, and I'll buy stuff. So it just continued like that. And then I just started to help people. The lottery was just a vehicle to the bigger purpose, to show people what's possible for them. Because, when people think of the lottery, you say, man, that's a game of chance or odds. You can't just win out of that stuff. But I was doing it 3-4 times a year, like 6-figure wins, and So I just want to show people, your audience out there, that the only limitation is a belief that your mind is limited. Your mind is actually limitless.
It
And
is.
so I just started to teach people. So I have students now that I'm teaching how the mind works, how they can recondition their mind, and how to attract abundance in all forms of abundance. And mean money, prosperity, happiness, build your business, get more clients, whatever you want to do to achieve your goals. That's what I do to help you, because everything starts with how you see your world, and it's all in the mind. Actually, the world is inside our head. There's no outside world. And physics shows that we actually live in an immaterial world. So that's basically a little bit about it. So you want to jump in or whatever you want, just let's dive.
Let's dive. But yeah, I just want to let the audience know, well, at the end of this podcast interview, I would definitely start following Mark if you want to learn. He can dive really deep into quantum physics. And that's where I think that I had a lot of for myself, I had a lot of curiosity, because you would even talk about how things would vibrate at a certain level. And that's how we're seeing things. Yeah. And he even gives the science behind it. And it's just so neat. But let's just take it down to like maybe even the simplest form. First of all, Mark, like what drove you really into your spiritual journey? Were you going through certain things at the time, or because in most cases, some people dive into it because they're really going through a painful process in their life.
Well, here's the interesting thing now, and this is what I've come to discover. That's why I am teaching and spreading awareness. You have to unlearn what you've learned. So look, everybody believes, or they were taught, that they were born and they came into this world, and when they die or go there, it's over or whatever. Some people believe they go to heaven. Some people believe they go to hell. Now, what I discovered was that actually all human beings, or any person or being with a consciousness, with an ability to have self-awareness, to know that, oh, I'm self-aware. It's called consciousness. All individuals of that sort, you always been here. This is you didn't come here when you were born. You've been here before. So all souls, they have a purpose. So that goes back to my thing. So my purpose was to come here to be a teacher, to do what I'm doing. That was my calling. That was my spiritual awakening. Because a lot of individuals think that you have to have like a spiritual awakening where you're in pain and feel miserable and all that. That's not necessarily true. Each soul chooses a different path. For me, I didn't experience any of those things. I didn't like go through emotional pain or anything. From a young age, I was just always curious. What really got me into it was I just wanted that car, and that car set it off. So there's always something that's going to initiate a soul to find their purpose. For some individuals, it could be pain. It could be whatever. But keep this in mind too. Remember now, everything is just a natural state of neutrality. There is no thing that we call good or bad. It's just our perception to that thing that gives it a definition. That's a human construct. Human beings made that stuff up. We make up good, bad, judgment, money, all this stuff. So you have to understand that it's not the situation that's happening to you. It's how you're interpreting the situation. How do you feel? What are you thinking? Those two things you can control. If you can control those two things, then you can control the situation. And my motto is, and I teach people this, and everyone should know this, look, nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. It's a big difference. It takes you from a victim mentality. So that was how my spiritual journey started. And I believe each person here, if you're here watching this and you're alive watching this, you came here for a purpose. Do you know how difficult it is to be born? You know what the odds are to be born, to be a human being? You know
what are the odds?
Like something, 1 in something quadrillion or quadrillion. You have a better, put it this way, it's a better odds of you winning the lottery 6 times over than being born.
Is it true? That's true?
Yes, that's true. Look it up.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
The point is this, Liza, everyone here, you have a purpose. And that's what I do. I help people to find their passion and their purpose, and I steer them the way to connect with what's called source, with their higher self. And the rest, as they say, is history.
That's amazing. Because if you really think of the odds of that,
Mm.
We're here trying to pray to win the lottery and all this kind of stuff. Your life
Yeah.
in and of itself is a miracle.
Yeah. There you have it, 6 times winning the lottery over than being born.
Wow. So basically, Mark, would you say that our lives, and you hear this, whether people understand it or whether they have like this really deep comprehension of it, this is the matrix,
Yeah.
we're
This is,
living in the matrix.
yeah.
Technically, everything is created from the constructs of our mind, also felt in the heart. And when those two connect, everything just like starts to happen. But I don't know, like for
No.
me, like that was my experience, and I had to learn that way. And like you said, everyone learns different ways, but I know you've been teaching now for so long. So, if you'd like to shed some light on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Definitely. We do live in a matrix. So have you seen the movie The Matrix? Everybody out there, that movie has some really deep scientific implications. And let me break it down to you and show you how your world works and what you are and how things are happening.
Yeah.
So the Matrix, the background for the Matrix began around the 12th century when we had organized governments. That was just the backdrop of the Matrix. But the true Matrix began during the Industrial Revolution, when we had technology, when they built the educational industry, when they created the media. All of that began the Matrix. Now it's flourishing to a point where we have the internet. So what basically the Matrix is any entity, government, system that has the ability to influence the collective subconscious through information, which gives them a perception of reality. Let me repeat that. Any entity, government, system, organization that has the ability to influence the collective subconscious means you through a perception of reality based on a certain identity or agenda. Okay? That's what the matrix is. So if you're watching the news, the mainstream media, every person is being programmed. You know what the big program is? It's fear-based. Fear-based because fear creates the survival instinct in human beings, the reptilian brain, the ego. It drives you to become a victim where you're more easily controlled. That's what the matrix is. Happiness doesn't sell. So you really have to be careful what you're watching, because human beings, we are 99% a subconscious program. In simple terms, what you think about the most, what you're surrounded by the most, what you watch the most, whatever comes into your environment the most, that creates a perception and that becomes your world. There's a certain part of your brain known as the RAS, reticular activation system. Basically, it's a filter. The brain is constantly screening information to match your reality. The interesting thing is everything exists as an infinite source. There's an infinite amount or infinite means for you to get your goals. But the problem is our brains haven't evolutionized to decode that yet. So we only can decode a small percentage of reality.
Correct.
Maybe 4% of reality we can only see. So what the brain does, the brain and the subconscious is looking for what you're focusing on the most. And then it's going to bring more of that into your life. So people got to really ask themselves, like, man, what am I surrounding myself? What am I watching? What am I thinking about? Because that will become your world. And don't think for a minute that this was a coincidence as all this came out. You got social media, everything, the mainstream news. Why do you think predominantly the news is negative? Why is that? People ever considered that? Why do you feel fear, anxiety, or certain things? Because when an emotion, E equals M, energy in motion, when an emotion is derived, it creates frequency or oscillation, quantum terms. People say things vibrate, they actually don't. Everything oscillates, really. You call it vibration. When the thing oscillates, it must find its oscillating match. That's how everything works. Everything must find its match. When it finds its match, that becomes what we call matter, physical stuff. That's why you will attract. You ever hear like toxic people get toxic people?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what that is. Everything on a base level is a frequency or a match. Even you and I, we look to ourselves and say, oh, Mark, you're physically real human beings. That's just a perception or hallucination that our brain creates an image. everything, if you can see the true nature of reality, you just see everything as an energy source, vibrating very, very fast, very slow. Fast gives the illusion of solid objects. Slow, you see the illusion of other stuff like liquid, gas, and all that stuff. So that's just a simple term of the matrix.
Everyone's going to be all like, that's not very simple. But
That's
actually,
the best I can bring it without getting too complicated.
but if you, I'm sure for many of you guys who are very interested in what Mark teaches, and I think, and I do really do encourage you guys, go on to his YouTube channel and all his socials, and he does explain, and you go into so many different subject areas on an everyday basis. You've been
Yeah.
teaching, there's just so much. It's true. Energy, frequency, vibration, everything. It's very true. And I was very much in that place where I was attracting that, but you were really my first coach to try to starting to understand that. That's why I was saying that it might have taken sometimes maybe months or even years after that I understood exactly what you're talking about. Like where people say, for me now, when I'm talking to my guides or have higher alignment, when I have big visions about something, I don't ask how. I know that I projected, I have that, and I let the universe all bring it into place based on my, maybe what you so-called oscillation.
Remember what I told you 3 years ago when I first took you on and I started coaching you, and I told you, I remember I said you have some really special gifts, and you picked it up from your mom because you were able to sense, see things, uh, dream things, and you'd always tell me this. I always told you, I said, Liza, you have like this really good ability with a lot of guys, and you need to plug into that. And that's what I was teaching you. But during that time, the thing about when you're shifting and you're going through your spiritual awakening, you have to become aligned. So that means the chemistry of your body has to change. And that's basically what you're going through. You were basically rebirth, reborn. The cells in your body were changing, everything were changing. So you were going through these emotional highs and lows and all these things. What you were really actually happening, you were really growing, you were really evolving into your purpose. And now you can see what a year or whatever later, you can see the flow now because you've really tuned in. And that was because you were able to distinguish between what's called the ego consciousness and then what's called the higher self consciousness.
Yes.
And you went into your higher self consciousness. People call it super conscious. You can say that, but that's a different level of awareness. And once you tap into that, remember those filters I talk about? A new map of reality opens for you now. And this is why you're able to flow so easily now, because now you're in harmony with the universe. By the way, everything comes into our lives through harmony, good or bad. The universe is always looking to harmonize stuff. It's like music, sound frequencies. That's what everything is. So when you're harmonized with something, that's called the alignment. And then once you get the alignment, then we have what's called the manifestation, where it starts to coagulate and it comes into a physical form. So you are harmonizing, and so when you harmonize what you want, you're going to get good stuff. Remember, harmony goes both ways. When you're harmonizing what you don't want, you're going to get that as well.
Correct. And it's for you to decide whether you call it good or bad, because I think I put this in a post just, I think around my birthday time. And I said, life is all about experiences here. You can never fail. You can only learn. It's just how you're judging things that you create pain and pleasure and all this kind of stuff. But I didn't have that, I can't go so much into content to describe that.
Yep.
But my podcasts are a best way for you guys to learn what I'm trying to teach you, or at least through my guests to share what that is.
Yeah.
Could we, Mark, because I truly believe ego is there's a big shedding of ego that's happening already, and is going to be shifting that fast. Could we go into that and talk about that so people could understand what would be your most simplest or best way you can help advise people or share something where they can discern between what their spirit is and what their ego is?
Okay. So an easy analogy would be this. So when the voice in your head is talking, okay, who's speaking? And then while the voice is speaking, who's listening to the voice? Because you can talk in your head and then listen at the same time. Okay?
Yeah.
So the voice that's speaking is known as your ego. The voice that's listening is known as your authentic self. Your ego is a representation of you. It's a persona. It's not you. It's something that was learned by how the brain developed. So egos are picked up when you were growing up from 0 to 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. You watch parents, you watch people, you watch stuff, TV, whatever, and then personalities start to form based on those environmental factors. That's what an ego is. But here's the key point about an ego, though. It is just a representation. It's like your representative. It's not who you truly are.
Mhm.
Now, the person you truly are is what's called the higher self. It's what I call a singularity. A singularity is when the universe began. People call it God, all this, but it's really the pure consciousness, the awareness, the super intelligence of every single person is experiencing the universe as a fractal. You are the universe experiencing the universe. And I'll prove it this to you right now. The iron in your left arm versus the iron in your right arm in your blood, because you know your blood has iron. The iron in your left arm came from an exploding stars billions of years before you were even conceived, yet is a part of you right now. And the iron in your right arm is from another exploding stars billions of light years away. So as you can see, you are part of this universe. You cannot literally be born, or you cannot die, so to speak. Now, I'm
Mhm.
speaking big picture here now. I'm not literally here,
I
but
know.
if you get what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying here. I'm showing you that the first law of thermodynamics, quantum physics, energy can never be created or destroyed, only transform form. So you've always been here. So with that fact statement, you are your true self. You are the authentic self. You know, and this a lot of things that mess us up when I talk about unlearn. Some of this is hard for people to hit. Is religion? They think
Mhm.
religion is a man-made thing, guys. Religion was created by a man, created by someone. It's an agenda. The spirit. There's a difference between spirituality and religion. Spirituality is having your own experience inside, an intuition to tell you what's right. Religion is someone else's story. They're telling you their story based so that it can influence you. You have to get that in your head. If you can't get that, you're going to be stuck in the matrix. So the higher self exists outside of that. And when you can tune in and become harmonious with it, that's when you get those genius ideas. That's how I won the
Mhm.
lottery so many times. That's how I do so many stuff so easily and effortlessly. That's why I have abundance constantly coming into me, because I know how to tap into that source. And it's like you live in a 3D or 5D. So in the ego, you're 3D. 5D is you have great empathy. You're non-judgmental. You're open-minded.
Mhm.
You have acute awareness. All those are tendencies of your higher self. Anything else is tendency of the ego: jealousy, envy, pride, anger. All those things are three-dimensional. The other stuff is five-dimensional. So that's basically the difference between the ego and the spirit or the higher self.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And Mark, I don't know if I even told
Mm.
you this, but and I don't even know if I told you this offline, but that's, and you'll
Mm.
see it all over my socials. I talk about 5D consciousness because I had no clue when I started going on this. I said, okay, I just have a calling, so I'll just let it unfold as time went by. I did this whole soul memory thing with a lady that I met. And she
Uh-huh.
goes, oh yeah, you're here. Your mission is to pull down the 5D down to the 3D. And then there are going to be people that are 3D to 5D, like you were talking about in the beginning. Everyone has a distinct mission, but I for the audience out there, I know that, if you're sometimes they're looking for this, what's my purpose, and sometimes they think so hard that it becomes
Yeah.
more impossible for them to figure that out. But if you go about life and you create the environment like what you were talking about, so you could start shedding all those layers of programming that the ego
Yeah.
has,
That's when your purpose
it will
comes in.
start, yeah, it will
That's when your
start to
purpose
make
comes in.
more sense what your purpose is. And even at
Mm.
the very core, until you even know like what your greater like skill and talent is, your purpose is to hold that space, hold yourself capable and others capable without judgment, that they can, um that they can really ascend and become their higher selves. The thing is, we have this tendency to judge so fast, even ourselves. The number
Yeah.
one person is
Mhm.
ourselves. We judge the most.
And where does that come from? A program,
In
through the
program.
matrix, through you growing up, through parents, through situations, and we adopted that program as our identity, and that's why a lot of human beings, and that's the bottom line. The reason why people don't have what they want, they're not living their dreams or whatever their passion is because they don't know themselves. That's a big thing. People don't know who they are. Well, they say, well, I know myself. My name is Mark. No. That's an identity that will give you. See, people spend their whole lives defending a name, a religion, a system. That's not even them. It was given to them at birth. It was
Mm-hmm.
plaster. Your name is Rick. Your name is John. Mark is not my name. That's just what they identify myself as, Mark Haughton. But that's not who I am. Liza is not your real name. It's not your name either. That's just what you identify yourself as. So with these labels, people start to become the identity of the label. And when you don't know who you are, you can't go where you want to go. You can't get what you want to get. You're always going to have resistance because there's this constant mesh between the ego and then the higher self. Now the higher self doesn't get involved. The higher self is not going to come to your ego and say, "Hey, you gotta
Leave
straighten
them
up."
alone.
No, because your higher self knows the whole game. It knows the picture. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just looking at you and giving you hints and say, "Hey, you need to take care of this. You need to do that." But see, that your job is to get into the space to be able to tap in, and that's what
Yes.
you did. That's what made.
Yeah.
That's what separated all of this. You finally got into that space, and you started to listen, and you started to, okay, now I see what's happened. Now your intuition became heightened. Now you see now you because you got your ego under control, and the
Right.
information was coming. And that's what I call a download. You're constantly getting downloads that goes into your subconscious mind, and
Correct.
it goes up to your conscious mind. But you can't get it if you have the mind chatter, the ego
Of
chatter.
course.
It's gonna just descramble it up.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
even in like I was even sharing that in the more recent times, I'm going through even another awakening process just to
Mhm.
get to move forward in the mission. And another thing that I've just even figured out probably in the last 3 to 4 months, this was all designed for us to wake up. It was all
Yeah,
designed, all those numbers, all the signs, everything was always there. It's just
yeah,
what, for you, it was the car that triggered that.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
you wanting to learn that. But Mark, you were the first one that said to me that the ego is there to protect you.
Yes.
I'm not too sure because that was your teaching back,
Yeah.
when you were coaching me. Could you explain that so then people could understand that sometimes, the
Right.
difference like with the ego of how it's trying to protect you,
Okay. Yeah.
and how
Versus.
that, yeah.
Yes. So the ego. The thing about the ego is the ego believes it will die. The higher self knows it cannot die. It knows that it's eternal. Knows that whether or not you'll come back in some other form, you'll be reincarnated, whether in this earth, whether it's in another dimensional space, time, or multiverse, whatever it is. Um, when I say these things, people look at me with shock, like, what is this guy talking about? But people don't understand that, we have Newtonian physics and all this stuff is outdated. Like we live in a multiverse now. We don't live in a universe. Now we know there's other multiverse. We have
Mm-hmm.
string theory now showing us that. So the ego now basically is designed to keep you survive, to keep you safe. Your ego doesn't like change. Um, it wants to keep you in the same pattern, no matter what it is, because it
Mm-hmm.
feels that if you start to go out of the picture or change the game, you risk death or risk injury or risk getting. So that's why the ego wants to protect you. That's why it's a protective mind. This is why when you want to do something, like when you want to make a big change, you get that feeling, like that non-resistance feeling, like I can't do it. And then your mind tells you don't do it because the mind doesn't want you to take that risk because it literally thinks that, oh, if you go there, I can't control that stuff. I don't know what's going to happen. So I need you back here. And this is, look, Lisa, this is why people run the same routine their whole life because they get
Mm-hmm.
comfortable in this zone, in this loop, and the mind won't release them from the loop, even though they want to go. But the minute they try to go, the ego pulls them back and says, no, you're going to fail. This could happen to you. Da, 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 da. So that's what I mean by the egos are protected. Now, it serves a purpose, yes, with logically to protect you, but I'm speaking big picture here. So I want your viewers to understand like what's going on in their lives and why things aren't changing, because the mind wants you to stay the same, and that's what I mean. It wants to protect you. Your ego doesn't care about you being happy. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
care about none of that stuff. It wants you to survive. There's a difference between survive and thrive. The ego is
Mm-hmm.
not about thriving; it's about surviving. So it means it will do what it needs to do to keep you in the same loop.
In
That's
looping
protection.
that. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until you break that yourself, until
You have to break that yourself. You have to use willpower to go out and change. You got to go out and make the comfortable uncomfortable. You got to start living in the uncomfortable and make it comfortable.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Because even now I can still discern between like my ego, my spirit, and then my spirit guides. I talk, they can talk to me.
Good.
And I even know they're funny. Sometimes they're comical. You know what I mean? It's just like I have that direct source.
Got that
and
5D. You're in 5D.
It's completely 5D.
You're in 5D.
I mean, just to give you an example, audience, it could be something like I'll get my guides telling me, go look at this page, or like go on social media and look at this person's page. And the first post I have, it's completely a message I needed to hear or resonate with. It's just like you feel that guidance, and or that when when it gives you instructions, go look at it. And that's where sometimes the answer is. It's so
trippy, right?
It's like, it is trippy.
Every time you do it.
It's trippy. But what I'm saying is, the mission of 8 billion, and I know, of course, for you, Mark, is that if we continue to teach this to people, whether we put out like hundreds and thousands or million pieces of content, you guys will get it, because eventually it's going to happen. We're all reaching that. We're raising our vibration as humanity. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. When the student ready to teacher appears, that's when they'll find this and resonates with them.
Yeah. Some people might call it magic. Some people might call it, until you get it and until you experience it, you will know what it does feel like miracles.
Totally agree. That's the ability when you're five dimensions or 5D awareness, is that you have the ability to distinguish between the conscious, the subconscious, higher self, and what we call guides or spiritual guides. And that's what you're able to do. That's what takes you to a new level. That's what I call acute awareness.
Acute awareness. Acute awareness is when you have connection to your guides and you can listen to them.
Yeah, acute awareness is the ability to know which mind is talking, which mind is in play.
Oh, it's incredible.
The higher self, spirit guide. That's acute awareness. That's 5. That's your next level.
Because that's what I was telling you when that lady did the soul memory. She's like, you're here to bring 5D down to 3D. And I was like, well, how do I know that if I'm not even experiencing 5D? So I went and searched for it just like you, and then it's what's really interesting, or what's really trippy too, is even people will just manifest out of nowhere,
know? Right? Because you're on everything. Remember what I said, everything must find its match. So that means there's something for someone. There's something and someone for everyone out there.
Yeah.
Everything, there's a match somewhere. There's nothing, what was I saying? Nothing's new under the sun. Whatever you want is out there somewhere. If it's not out there, it's going to be created, it's invented. So you will always find your vibrational match based on what you think and how you feel.
Yeah.
That's what creates all this stuff.
Yeah. It's true, because you could have, sometimes I know that people are looking at me and are just like, how did you do it? Because like it was all about like, why does it seem like everything is always just good? Because when I became aware that there's fear that guides us, or media, or all of that kind of stuff, I just took it out. And it's not, you have to consciously always take that out until your new world transforms. And now you're in it. It's like the paradigm shift happens. Yeah. And now, you're navigating through it. That's why another way that someone had described it to me, they're like, Lisa, this whole world is just like a play, and this is the stage, and in walks this person and in walks that person. And you know what I mean? It's really neat. I mean, there's so many different analogies to it, but.
Totally agree. We are the creators of our world. Our world is internal. There's no external. The thing is this, there's cause and effect, 2 fundamental laws in science. So everything, if there's an effect, it has to be a cause. The physical world is the effect. The cause you can't see because it's internal. And that's what messes people up. And that's where people that unlearn is. People think, what people do? They try to change the external world. But as you can see now, cause and effect. See, now you see, you can't change an effect. It's already there. But that's why people don't have success, because they're trying to change the physical. What they should do is go change the internal. The cause is from inside. So what do I mean by internal? Well, you have to start to see yourself different. You got to start to visualize. You got to start to get into meditation. You got to start to feel abundant. Or even if you can't feel abundant, feel neutral. Feeling neutral and feeling at peace carries the highest vibrational frequencies. It's even higher than love. Did you know that?
Is it really?
Yeah. In frequency hertz, neutrality and peace is the highest frequency, even more than love and abundance.
Wow.
So if you can do that, that's when your world will start to shift, because now you become harmony, and then you can attract love and all the other stuff. But on a chart where they show, 38 hertz, the earth, everything has a certain resonance and frequency. Every emotion carries a frequency. You can measure it up. Neutral and peace are the two highest. And then above that, the highest one above that is enlightenment. Enlightenment is the ability when you're in 5D, that's superconscious. So those are the three highest frequencies. This is what I'm saying. They're higher than happiness, joy, love. Think about that.
Wow.
Being neutral and at peace will get you everything.
Wow. So do you hear that, audience? To take you into 2022, that's probably, because I was just going to ask Mark, what would you like to leave with the audience? And then that's really big for me. That's something that I learned right now.
Don't become attached to anything. Not being attached to anything gets you everything. That's neutrality. That's the flow of the universe. That's the harmony.
That's what they say. Attached to nothing, connected to everything.
That's how it works. Because everything, did you know everything came from nothing? You and I, so that means nothing is everything. When the universe began, or when we see it, it came from a singularity. A singularity flew, boom. You see the Big Bang. So from that singularity came you and I. So there was nothing. So if you reverse engineer that, you're thinking like, okay, how can I get what I want? Okay, let me just go back to just being not attached. It is what it is. Go with the flow. Listen to my higher self. Tune in. Be at peace. Man, everything comes to you.
Yeah.
Everything. You never have to work hard. All those things were taught by you, to struggle, to sweat, to pain and all that. No pain, no gain. All that was made up. That's what your mind sees. The universe doesn't work that way. There's no struggle in the universe. You create struggle within yourself because your perception says to struggle. You can work hard, you can work smart. You can go with the flow, let the universe do it, because that's the natural law. It's difficult for people to grasp this idea, though, because you know why? Because so much things happen. They've been indoctrinated with schooling, with religion, with certain things. And, I'll say one thing too, Lisa, and people have to know this. People don't understand, like, the educational system was created by Andrew Carnegie. And it was designed to make people workers, not thinkers. It was the Industrial Revolution, the Steel Revolution. The agenda was to create people to not think, but to do a certain skill. It's still going on today. So people go through college and everything, and they come out. They still don't have any critical thinking. They don't know how to think or any of that stuff. They're just boom, 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 boom. That's the matrix programming people. That's what I call bots.
Yeah, no kidding. So that in and of itself, audience, is a lot to probably absorb in 45 minutes. So I would love to have you back, Mark, if you'd love to come back for 2022, but I thought this would be a great gift to take everyone into 2022 or end out the year. So Mark, could you please tell the audience if they'd like to follow you or they'd want to get a hold of you, how they could do that?
Just go YouTube, search Mark Haughton. I'll pop up somewhere out there. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff.
Got it. And what I'll do is I'll put it in the description box. And of course, I'll tag you when I actually release this podcast so everyone can find you. But Mark, I am wishing you an absolutely incredible 2022. And thank you so much. I'm so glad we connected.
Yeah.
And okay, you guys, one last thing that I want to leave you with. This is how the laws of the universe work. I had coached with Mark 3 years ago. My mom passed away. I went on to do things. Lost touch with Mark. All of a sudden, I was just typing in something on YouTube about like chosen ones or something like that, right? First person that popped up was Mark. And I was just like, blew my mind. And I was like, Mark, where are you?
Yeah.
So I text him, and here we are today, right before the turn of the new year. But it's going to be an incredible, year. Yeah, it sure
2022,
is.
guys, remember, be attached to nothing will get you everything.
Yeah.
Develop that mindset. It'll start you on your purpose. Your purpose will start to find you then.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. Like I said, you always have a place here on 8 Billion Podcasts.
Definitely come back again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this week's episode. And I will actually see you guys in 2022. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts, or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.